It's the Dev Friday Show with Mark and Tim.
You know what, Mark? We should totally write a book. I don't even know what's going on here. My camera's not on. Here's I think the title of the book. How do I get rid of that? That's how I get rid of that open. This is how not to run a successful podcast. What do you think?
There you go.
Because this is it's March and it's the first episode of 2024.
I think we are certified at not running a podcast.
not running it. Not only is it the first one of 2024, so talk about a consistent release schedule. But I've mixed the last two, and they're going to be. I hope to upload or get the show notes done so I can hit the button and tell you to upload them later on today. And I mean, I think our content's pretty timeless, right, Mark?
It's memorable. I'd say that.
So I don't know that it matters that I am releasing podcasts that were recorded 2 months previous. They may feel a little dated because they have the Christmas bumper.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what people need. Maybe right now they need a little Christmas cheer.
And I thought the same thing because I checked out our website. I think I was telling you I've been working on trying to get it updated. And the last show on the website is an early December show.
It's early December show.
We're planning for Christmas.
Shows. Yeah. There's 2 more shows where we. It's tough because I'm trying to even remember what we talked about. AI. I'm not gonna lie, it's useful, but the summaries it gives for our show, they don't ring true to me. They don't ring true. I mean, turn your coding in curiosity up a notch as we explore the diverse world of programming languages. From the succinct elegance of Ruby to the robust versatility of PHP, to cover how AI tools like ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot are shaping the way we approach coding, but might not be ready yet to replace the discerning human eye in a manual code review. We'll also take a peek at my firsthand experiences with these AI assistants, balancing skepticism with their potential to streamline simpler tasks, reminding us that a human touch in tech is irreplaceable. I don't know. I don't think it captures this show.
What does capture this show?
Not much. Not much.
And I do want to try to expand this.
Uh-oh.
Well, I do. We were trying. We took a good 2-month off break.
Right.
I don't know. Just
a little bit more than 2 months.
A little bit of a pause.
A little bit of a pause. Yeah.
And I think we might want to kind of up our game a little bit.
I see you changed angles.
Maybe broadcast. Well, yeah, I'm changing up my office. Yeah, like I do every month. Change my computer setup.
I don't think the world is ready.
Camera.
I don't think the world is ready for this. I know what you're going to say, like, because you messaged me about this, right? You want to increase the reach of this podcast, right?
Once we can figure out how to make this a little more professional.
Okay, so you're saying you don't want to do it until it's a little bit more professional.
No, I think we should probably do it next week. But maybe between now and next week, we can think about how to make this a little more professional.
Uh-oh. Is your VPN on?
No.
Is your VPN on?
Oh, if it's my connection or your connection.
I know. That's what speaking of professional. This is I'm glad we have the audio recording because we'll marry them back up and it'll be interesting, I'm sure. Is your VPN on?
Let me double check. I don't think it is.
Because I don't know. It just dropped out there for a little bit. So we have a week to try to make this more professional.
No, I'm not. Well, I was thinking, it'd be kind of fun too, because I've been, spending a little more time on Twitch and LinkedIn.
Ooh.
And I was kind of thinking it would be kind of fun to maybe, instead of just broadcasting this to Twitter and YouTube, because trying to get a little bit of attention and trying to bring in a little bit of an audience is a little bit challenging, I think, on Twitter. And because formerly Twitter, now X, who is really on X anymore.
I don't know. It feels to me like LinkedIn became the social network I didn't realize existed.
It is. It's interesting. Yeah, we could definitely talk about that because I've spent a lot of time since the new year on LinkedIn to try to get back on that. And if you want to actually get engagement, there are a lot of people chatting. Well, most people are there chatting because they need to get a job. But
There are a lot of that. Yeah.
there's a lot of people, interacting, posting. The comments on posts are pretty active. So once you start
I've
chiming in, it's you can actually get a lot of replies or feedback on content that you're posting. So it
So
actually
you're thinking you want to stream to Twitch and LinkedIn?
well, definitely Twitch would be kind of fun because Twitch, we're definitely going to get some young ones who spend most of their days on Twitch to kind
Is
of
that a thing?
to laugh at us as two old guys trying to do a podcast.
Is like Twitch like internet TV? Is that the idea? I
Internet
thought, like,
TV for
I don't know. You said people spend
watching
their time on
people
Twitch because,
play
like,
games and
yeah,
to
that's what it
yeah.
is, right? Like that's what it's like live. Either it started out as a watch me live stream this game, right? And
Mhm.
then more people were like, watch me live stream code, I guess.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that's a much more of a smaller audience. I think there's only around, I don't know, maybe like 3,000 people who watch that on average on a daily basis, compared to, I don't know, let's say like hundreds of thousands who watch or millions who watch the actual people playing games. And also there's a lot of like just chatting, just people who just like turn on streaming, just turn on the camera in their room, try to get some attention, try to get an audience, not really doing anything, but just trying to build an audience of as a streamer. But the one thing I like about it is the interactions, right? So you can get a lot of kind of drive-by people who just kind of will see your show live streaming, and they'll just want to check it out and to see what you guys are talking about. So I think you'll get more interactions on Twitch and also on LinkedIn too, because I haven't seen that many people do like live streaming on LinkedIn.
I'm actually watching a live stream on LinkedIn right now because you had asked me if it was possible.
Oh,
You
you
had
were
asked me if it
doing
was
this as a
possible.
test. Okay.
Well,
great.
no, I didn't intend to do it as a test, but you asked me if it was possible, and I was clicking around. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
I could do this, I could do that. Oh yeah, it does look like we can stream to, and like I can connect my account to LinkedIn, and it's like I'm going to create an event or something. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'll dig into it more later. Apparently, I didn't turn that off, so we are right now live streaming to LinkedIn. I don't know if anybody's watching other than me who's watching.
Tim, I'm not prepared for this.
I know, right? And it's weird. I have no idea where it is on LinkedIn. But if you go to my profile page, it is now the background of my, like your header background is now this live video that I am looking at.
So it's
delayed by a bit
because you're not on LinkedIn. So it's funny. Well, people who follow you.
I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. What do you mean I'm not on LinkedIn?
But you don't do that. You don't really post that much.
No, yes. I'm not active.
You're not active.
I'm not active. I want to be. I aspire to be.
So it's interesting how like people who follow you probably wondering, oh, where's Tim? And all of a sudden this like random video stream of these two guys talking to each other just pops up. That's with no context at all.
Zero context.
That's great.
And the episode title is "We Should Write a Book." So
that's the last thing we should do.
No, write a book on how not to write. If you do the opposite of what we have done with this podcast, there's a better chance you'll be successful than we will. So that's where I'm going with that. Anyway, I feel like, I don't know, is this still the LinkedIn experience? I feel like this video here is going to result in a lot of recruiters reaching out to me.
Possibly.
Is that
well, what I was hoping to do, and he probably need another week to really figure this out and set this up, is like, because I want to see like the real time, chatting or people commenting. That's what I was hoping. If we broadcast to Twitch and to LinkedIn, we might get a little bit more real time feedback, comments on what we're talking about, or maybe if we ask a question, maybe we can get some responses. That'd be kind of fun to do.
Get people interacting with us.
Yeah, I'd say build an audience, Tim.
Yeah. It's weird that you both think of this as therapy and you're like, what we need is an audience. But I mean, that's,
you're thinking, babe, that's the last thing I want.
It's what it is.
I try to keep to myself. I want to like people to, stay away. I want to be that quiet remote developer who, only need me when they need to fix something.
That's me. Speaking of how quiet I am as a remote developer, do you know I'm speaking at PHP Tech? Which is coming up just in a month away. Just a month away. I don't have a promo code. I need to get a promo code.
Once again in Chicago?
Once again in Chicago.
The Windy City?
Where it should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
are you gonna once again tell everybody that they don't own anything? And
no, I did that last year. And apparently everybody sold all of their possessions and they're all homeless. So that's how that talk went. If you want to see that talk, I think it's on their YouTube channel. But no, this year I'm going to talk about Docker. little bit of Docker.
Oh, great. All right.
More of it, not a, because I think a lot of times, I don't know. It's kind of hard to understand where the general understanding or usage of the technology is when it's something that you kind of use frequently to know, like, well, from a general population standpoint of developers, not people like everyday people, but like people who would use Docker, how well do people know that? So we'll see how well this talk goes. I think it was relatively well received a couple of years ago when I did a similar talk, but I don't dig into, because I think a lot of the conversation around Docker talks about how to deploy to Docker, how to use Docker in your CI/CD pipeline, how to deploy using containers, and a lot of people, that is a bit away depending on where they are, right? Like you'd have to do a couple things just to get to be able to even run your local dev in Docker. It's not necessarily just let me switch over to that and see the benefits. It may take me having to re-architect some things about my application, probably around configuration, and who knows how much work has to go in just being able to run your site on Docker locally. So this talk says, well, let's talk about everything else, not everything else, but a lot of the really quick wins you can get using Docker.
So you're going to use it more for like small utilities, or just kind of you can kind of integrate into your workflow?
Yeah, and since the audience is PHP developers, I take the first approach is to show how you run PHP using Docker and not locally. Yeah, because then I can switch from PHP 8 to PHP 8.2 to 8.3. I can, or even much, bigger differences. I can say, well, how does this code work in PHP 7? Oh, that's easy. It's simple to do, as opposed to some utilities that have been around in the past that have kind of tried to switch it on your system, and that can be a little tough. And then, like, how do you install your node dependencies and your npm dependencies without actually installing Node? Because just yesterday we were working on an issue, and we needed, because of some kind of legacy code, we needed to install npm on node 14.
Oh, really? Wow.
Right. So because it's code that hasn't been touched forever.
Yeah.
Piece of cake when you can just say, Docker run the node 14 container, run the node 14 image as a container, get into it. That's built with npm, that ran on node 14, and just run it.
Well, you do have NVM too, Tim.
You have what?
You have the Node Virtual Manager. I think that's what it stands for. The NVM.
So you can have Node run different versions of Node?
Yes, that's right.
Well, that sounds like it's
a virtual manager for Node.
Problem.
Doesn't PHP have one of those?
No.
Oh, really?
No. I think
because that's what I primarily use.
Stuff that,
because actually it works pretty well. Like
if
you want to jump between, because I often have to jump between version. Let's say I'm mostly on 20 the latest, but then sometimes like 16 for some compatibility issues. So yeah, it's easy to kind of go back and forth between just by one command line. But I had tried to run Docker for Node, and I think it works good. Like if I would run it with a PHP app, which sort of a single process in and out, it works pretty good. As a long running process, you run into issues with like file permissions and like make sure you have like the IO kind of working with the container that's running. But so I think it's a little bit more involved. But yeah, it works.
Gotcha. So doing a talk on that use of Dockerizing simple commands, like when you don't want to have like some weird utility because it requires Ruby. Like some people that have a command line.
That also entails a little bit of bash scripting too, right? If you like to do like an alias or to make it a little bit more user friendly.
Yeah. If you want it to feel like it's a real command, you gotta figure out how to alias.
Because the Docker command is not short.
No. So I would advise aliases for a lot of things. In fact, on my system, PHP is alias to a Docker command to run the latest PHP container. And I think mount my current working directory under source, and then pass in whatever commands past that I give.
This brings me to an interesting question, because you and I develop primarily on Linux or some type of that type of environment, not on Windows. And I find that if you have like a set of dot files, using bash aliases works really, really nice. And that's one of the reasons why I love working off of Linux, because how you can customize your workflow, with a little bit of scripting is like super easy. But if you're going to be on Windows though, how would you do that?
With Docker?
Yes.
No
So to kind of make it a little more user friendly to shorten up the commands.
I honestly don't know. I feel like I would say if you're going to be on Windows playing with Docker utilities, I would think you'd be using the what is it, the Windows Linux subsystem, WSL, or WLS, or whatever that is.
WSL.
And I've, for the times that I've done development, I found that very useful. I forget
it is. Yeah.
I forget what I ended up doing with Storm. I think it was weird because running the IDE on the Windows system and having it mess with files that were on the Linux subsystem was painful. So instead, what I did was I ran their JetBrains Gateway, which allows you to run a remote IDE on a remote server. Just the remote server I picked was my Linux subsystem.
Yeah.
And that worked really good because I could in the IDE bring up a terminal and I'm there, and I mean, for me that feels a lot like native Linux, because I think it probably is a lot like native Linux, and I could run Docker there. I could do whatever I wanted. So it was really slick.
Yeah, that's where I see that the performance of WSL2 does start to show itself, is when you try to access the file system between Linux and Windows. If you try to do some because my workflow was trying to integrate some symlinks so I could access directories on Windows from the WSL, and you could do it. Actually, I'm amazed that it works. Actually, setting it up is really, really easy. But then you do see the performance, like the IO performance. You do take a hit on that. So if you're going to be like doing anything, especially if I'm doing like Blender or trying to do Godot or Unity or something like that, just something that's kind of like something that's a little bit more intensive, a little bit more IO intensive, then it's you could definitely start to see the performance hit with that.
And that, I don't know that you could do Blender that way. That'd be interesting. But
well, if I was going to something, if I had like a game project I wanted to do, and I'm going to kind of have like a model open in Blender, kind of go back and forth between the game engines, kind of starts to see the performance hit a little bit.
Yeah, because like I said, success, where I've seen success is just run on Linux and run the UI on Windows remote thing, and I don't think you can do that easily with Blender for sure. But you wouldn't want your files to be in the Linux subsystem, because you want to be using them if you're writing a game on the .NET side, right?
This brings up kind of a current event we could kind of talk about.
Current event?
Yeah, because I got into a little bit of a chat thread on Twitter.
I feel like we need a bumper for current event. We don't have.
Do you know the infamous David Heinemeier Hansen?
Yeah.
He is I don't know if you follow him on Twitter or not, but he's been making some waves this week about switching over to Windows.
I saw was the thread on the fact that he still uses I forget text. Was it TextMate or something like that? And it doesn't run on Windows, so he's looking at Sublime and he's not sure, because he doesn't want an IDE, because that makes you write complex code. I'm like,
that's right.
Yep, those are opinions.
No, the world is trying to talk him into NeoVim, which I 100%.
I saw that at the end, and I was like, you know what? I should have known this was coming.
Because he commented the fact of he never would have thought about switching to Linux if it wasn't for WSL. Because I guess he finally was opened up to the world of WSL. The fact you could run
to Windows. You
could have a Linux command line in Windows,
right.
And you could basically do everything he was doing from running his Ruby applications on the Mac. He could now do on Windows through the WSL. So he was talking a lot about that on Twitter, and he was asking, and I said, "Oh, that's great, but you're going to start seeing performance hits when it comes to WSL compared to just doing on native Linux." Because what I do is I do boot from Ubuntu to Windows and do most of my work in Ubuntu, but then I'll occasionally have to go back into Windows, like I'm doing today for the show, because video does still work better on Windows. I don't want to try to mess with that too much. So there are some tasks I need to switch back on Windows, but most time when I'm doing development, I'll just stay in Ubuntu and kind of natively on Linux because it's faster.
That puzzles me too. I wasn't part of that conversation. I saw his post. Somebody else had posted his post about IDEs, and that very much like text editor rules concept. Which again, it's a fine position. It's a fine opinion. I tend to take a differing one, obviously, but I'm not saying that's the thing. In those wars, it's usually like, well, this is why this is right, because using only a text editor means you're not going to write complex code that's hard to maintain. That doesn't necessarily mean that. Come on. And the fact that you have IDEs and you have the tooling that makes things easy to automate doesn't mean you're writing bad code. But neither way, like, or you could just use your text. Who cares? Like, so I saw that. That's how I kind of am aware of this conversation. But I'm puzzled. Like, so he's thinking of moving from, because I don't know the greater conversation. He's thinking of moving from Mac to Windows. Does he not even consider moving to Linux? Like that blows my mind a little.
No, that's interesting. Which I didn't see his full. I read like half of his blog post, so I didn't know if that was even a consideration. I think what I don't think he wants to deal too much with the configuration. I think the idea is because he
don't anymore.
He found his Windows laptop that he likes, which I think he's using like
okay. I'll give you that.
So so dealing with like the hardware configuration.
Thing. Okay.
I don't think he really wants to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then he just wants to just have a command line open up,
because you've tried
similar commands to what he's used to doing on the Mac. So
you've tried the run Linux on, I don't want to say like Microsoft hardware, or, Windows specific hardware, and it can work, but then it can also be problematic. Yeah, I can see that if that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, unless you're into tinkering and dealing with the configurations and
no, but that's where it's like if you can build your own system. And I know that, I mean, you might call that tinkering, right? But like if you're not talking about laptops and portables where it gets really finicky about what you can put together and where you get the components and all that. But if you're building your own desktop out of good components, not whatever's cheapest, but like, you're building your own programming desktop, I don't think you're going to run into a lot of configuration issues with Linux. I mean, it's just that's just completely based on my experience. But from 2021, when I built my current desktop, to now, the only configuration issue I had, and it just happened like last week, was one day my monitors just stopped. X server was seg faulting, and it did take a while to figure it out. But I would say that I've had similar issues with my Windows machines, and there's a reinstall what makes it work. I don't, it took a while to figure it out, but it was really simple. The problem was if you're familiar with AMD video cards in the Linux ecosystem, there's like two kernel drivers for AMD, and the wrong one was being enabled for the support of my video card.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and it was like, no, and they're like, there's problems with it. The hardest part was figuring out how now, not 3 years ago, you're supposed to tell the kernel which one to use.
Yeah.
Because I disabled one and then it didn't use any of them. And it's like, that's great. I've got a video card that has 4 outputs, but now it only can use 1. That's not exactly nice. So it just took a couple, but to me, it's not like I'm recompiling the kernel so I can use my CD-ROM.
Oh, those were the days.
Yeah. It's gotten a lot better.
No, I totally agree, because I'm on Ubuntu 23.10, and I'm amazed at how efficient it is from just getting it running, getting it set up, installed, and then I don't really honestly have to tweak it too much. Like for doing a lot of I don't have to before. Just remember doing a lot of configuration changes. It's pretty streamlined.
It is,
and I totally agree with you. Now, if you're going to run it on certain laptops, which I experienced, like the Windows Surface
if it needs to be a
laptop, there are certain things to do because of like hardware compatibility. Fortunately, the open source world is great. There's a lot of people who support hardware that Linux may not support out of the box, and so you can definitely probably find like either a library or some type of Actually, I'm using like a custom kernel from that you can find on GitHub for the Surface laptop. For Linux, and just I kind of avoid it, but then they have the install process, especially for Debian and Ubuntu systems. It's just basically like a package install, like an app install. So once you install the packages, a couple things you have to do.
Recompile the kernel.
But no, it actually doesn't do that. It just it basically downloads a version of the kernel, a customized version of the kernel for that distribution, and then it just switches the headers.
Oh.
So it just switches the headers, your kernel headers, and so it boots up that. Now, if your version of Ubuntu decides to update the kernel, which that occasionally has, it'll overwrite that change. That will require you to kind of to configure the headers just to kind of make sure it's pointing to the right one. But you can have actually multiple kernel headers installed, and you could just decide which one to switch.
Oh, nice.
So actually, it's
That
really
seems
streamlined. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I've unfortunately, and not a sponsor, so I guess I can say whatever I want about them. I've never had a problem with System 76 laptops, but I know of a couple people who've bought them recently and have just performance issues, configuration issues, and that's unfortunate because I've always thought their hardware was really, really good. In fact, I finally got, because of the video card issues that I had having to change which of AMD's drivers were used. I was like, this feels like maybe there's some hardware failing here, and it was never the video card I wanted because I got it back in 2021 when everybody was buying video cards to do mining. So I finally got a video card that I'm like, yeah, this is the class video card I wanted in this machine. And since I got that, since I'm gonna have to put it in, I went and I bought one of the, I guess it'd be they call them the Nebula cases, but they're the Thelios. If you've seen System 76's Thelios desktop, they sell the case just as a case. And that's the other thing. Like, I didn't want a silly gaming case, but I don't know where to buy one that's not that. Like if you want a case for not like a little tiny compact stick, you want a normal tower. It's got, I don't know that, can you find one that doesn't have LED and it has plenty of space to put whatever you want in it? Can you find one without like LEDs and a glass window? And it's like, I don't want any of that. So I got the Nebula.
You wanted the nice wood finish, the nice.
Oh, they don't make the
Is that
full
the one
side.
you got?
They don't make the full side anymore. It's just a panel.
It's just
on
a strip.
The front.
It's just a panel.
But it used to wrap around.
Yeah.
The first version it was like the whole side was.
Which I did like what they're trying to do aesthetically. They're trying to be unique and just do something different. So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I liked it. But to me, it was like I'm not gonna pay more for you to put together the same components I can put together.
Yeah.
And have more configurability because I can choose like 3 options with you. I can choose whatever I want. So I'm glad to have the case. Part of me would have put it together last night, but that seemed like a bad move before a day of podcasting and work on a Friday. So we'll probably put it together this weekend, and I'll be running the Thelios case. But yeah, I can see if you have to be a portable, I can see saying I'm not going to go the Linux route.
Yeah, because it does take a little bit more work. But once you do it, then it's great. It does take a little bit more for the configurations because of the hardware compatibility. But yeah. And I wish there were more vendors like maybe like Dell or that would offer, and they've kind of tried here and there.
Dell didn't they? They had a Linux compatible.
They do, and HP had one that had like an HP that they partnered with. You're talking about with System 76 for like their HP One Dev or something like their Dev One laptop, which actually was super interesting. So they occasionally, I think, and then Dell does support Linux. So if you do buy a Dell, I'm not sure. I think for the I know for the desktops, absolutely you can. You can say, okay, I want to run Ubuntu in it, and then it'll come pre-installed. But for the laptops, I think there are certain precision laptops you can say you can want Ubuntu installed on it. So, but they don't do it for everything.
Does Lenovo do any of that? I thought they did too. I thought they had.
Well, they are like. Lenovo is probably the most well-regarded. If you do want to run Linux on a laptop and have it just almost work out of the box, then
by their hardware,
by the hardware, it's pretty easy to get it.
But they don't have one that is like.
I don't know. I haven't tried to purchase a laptop from them and to see what the configuration of options are. Usually, I do default to Dell if I'm kind of checking something out. But
one more System 76 topic. I don't believe yet that they have released a laptop that they have built themselves, meaning they're not sourcing. I mean, if you want to know how laptops are made, right? Like you get the chassis that you want, you get the components that you want. They're fabricated, overseas, or the components come in and you fabricate them. But their desktops they build all stateside in their manufacturing facility. They are working on the chassis and the actual outside, right, of a laptop that they're going to manufacture themselves, which I am super interested in, but it's not out there yet. So anything you're buying from System 76 is what remember back in the computer show days, like the what did they call them, white label computers or something. Like you knew it was the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. It was like, oh, we're our custom brand, but no, you're
Mm-hmm.
just going out to a factory and asking for these components to be putting in, hoping that they are, and selling it like Alien. I mean, Alienware made decent
Well, if you go
stuff
to a
before they
computer
got.
show, you just went to the small vendor, so you knew that they were just buying these boxes, just
Yeah.
slapping everything together like the week before the show, and just
Yep.
throwing it on the table and selling it. That was those are great times.
That was the day. Those are the days. Yeah, yeah. Well, how have you been, Mark? What's
I know
going on?
it's been a while because we took 2 months off from Christmas, and then I told you I needed to because it was I needed a little bit of break to kind of try to focus on some things. I can announce I'm officially certified. I know that was a long officially
certified. How many
certified.
pictures of your office did you have to take to get certified?
A good number. Yeah, when you try to take a test from home, they're pretty strict about making sure you don't have anybody helping you out.
So you are a AWS cloud architect,
a solutions architect. So that's the associate exam. So I know I was putting it off for a long time because when I took it, I wanted to be prepared. You know me. I want to make sure that I have no doubts. And I was, by the time I eventually decided to take it, I was pretty confident. And so it went pretty well, even though one thing that I realized, reason why I was pushing out for so long is that I'm really bad taking tests.
This is an interesting admission from someone in higher education.
It is. Currently. Well, I don't actually. That's in my courses. I don't give exams. I'm all project based.
Right? Yeah.
I'm all project based because that's I think that's more real world. But from exam point of view, it's not a skill that I have that I'm strong at. Because what happens though, it's not the actual process. Actually, taking the exam, I don't mind. Actually, it's it's a little bit of sort of a. Each little question is a problem you have to solve. And, you can kind of get into a good workflow with it. It's not too bad. But what I do, it's a weakness of mine, is second guessing myself. So when I get into a question, yes, and I'm constantly questioning myself. I'm saying, that's not the right answer. You should pick something else. And what happened, and I thought the exam was okay. But what happens, I remember I checked a couple questions. I was like, there was 2 questions I was like wondering about. I looked it up after the test. I was like, I had the right answer, and I switched it back to a wrong answer. And I was like, I hate that.
That's what the test. I don't know. Does it sound weird to see like the test taking experts? But the people that kind of know how our minds work in tests. Yeah. I feel like that's the advice they generally give is it's probably your first answer was probably the right one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the way the AWS certification tests are laid out, really, it's usually it's definitely a multiple choice. Either you have to select one of, let's say, 4 options, or maybe select 2 out of 5 options, and then what will happen though is that usually out of those, let's say you have a select 1 out of 4, they'll have 2 options that'll be pretty similar. You have 2 options who they're similar to each other, but then they kind of based on the qualifications of questions, it may not, it's definitely not going to apply. So you can kind of narrow it down to, let's say 2, but then between those 2, you have to really be careful about which one you select to make sure you get the right one. And that's where, for me, the second guessing comes into play. And I'm like, so usually I can always definitely narrow it down to the 2 options that that are going to be the most likely correct answer. But then, if you worry that, I didn't make the right answer, go back, I marked that question for review, go back and then change it right before I finish up the test. And so that actually happened to me a couple times, or for a couple questions. And then I really kind of kicked myself, and just to remind me of the fact of like, I just need to not stress so much. Just, just go through the process, embrace it, and not worry. But I think as a kid, maybe when I was young, I think, if you don't develop that skill early on, or at least a way to manage exams and tests, if you have the whole stress kind of builds up inside you while you're taking the test, and you don't know really how to manage that, deal with that, it's a challenge. So
this is the therapy part of the show.
It is.
So
it is.
This is where we get introspective and try to understand what makes Mark.
So I did that. I still have on my list to do, which I have another one scheduled for next week, is the developer exam. I want to do the AWS developer and then the SysOps associate. And I'm going to stop at that. I'm thinking, okay,
so
get those 3, and I think that'll be good for now. And then
cloud solutions, is that right? Am I right? Cloud solutions.
The solutions architect associate.
Okay,
that's the first one I took.
So that means you know how to put the AWS pieces together. Like you could say, you could use this to accomplish that, and then the developer one is going to kind of indicate that you know how to actually do the building on those.
So that you're familiar with how serverless works with like your Lambda functions, or how to
Okay.
do like, your YAML with your cloud formation. Just how to, if
Gotcha,
you're actually going to be developing an application, what are it's mostly like configurations, I find. It's mostly because the solutions architect is where you need to know about all the pieces that exist and how they fit together, and which are going to be the best services for that problem that you're trying to provide a solution for. But then for the developer, and I think also when I'm preparing for the sysop too, is that it's more for, okay, you pretty much know the services that you need to apply to that problem or to that solution, but how do you apply them? What type of configuration are you going to use? When you're modifying the policies or the permissions, what's the rate set that you should apply for that type of service.
So that's the next.
So it's a little bit more granular, which I thought about doing the developer first, because I think that is a little bit more approachable from my experience. But I wanted to get the solutions architect first, but I think it is more general, more broad. And then what I read is that there is a lot of carryover between the exams, especially between the associate exams. So once you do one, then you can kind of just leverage your knowledge on the others. I thought that would be kind of good to do the solutions architect first, and then kind of take some of that knowledge, which as I'm taking some practice tests and then kind of, getting a feel for what the type of questions are going to be on the developer exam. Yeah, there's a lot of similar questions from the the architect.
And then the last one, what was the last one?
I think it's the sysops. It's not the
right.
It's not the DevOps, the sysops.
Is that more in line of their cloud metrics and auto scaling and understanding how then to take the infrastructure? I guess it's like, okay, so if the solutions is here's the pieces and how they play together, the developers here's actually how to tie them together and make them work together, and then sysops is that more like now that we need to make it bigger, make it smaller, monitor it, all that kind of fun
a lot
stuff.
Of observability.
Okay,
a lot of cloud watching, CloudTrail logs. Yeah, knowing how to configure those.
We just weathermen now.
Yeah, knowing how to, once again, it's just about configuration. That's what it seems like. Just knowing you'd be comfortable with knowing how the proper configurations you should do.
Gotcha. All right, so you're well on your way. And I saw you like hanging a shingle out there.
A shingle,
like cloud, like an on-demand or what was it? Like a retainer-based cloud solutions.
Well, that was just something, I don't know. I thought, remember we've always talked about doing the that subscription service. I thought it's an interesting idea. I don't know. It's just something I threw together in a week, just because I wanted to kind of just, put together a one-page website real quick and just have something out there. Because what I've also been trying to do as I've been starting to, or have been looking for, what's available from the job market, which it's a little bit rough out there because there's a lot of people looking because of the tech economy. So it's definitely what I want to do is have like a little bit of a fallback, and also just try to pick up a little bit more client work while I'm also looking at full-time opportunities. And so I threw up a website on Cloud Build. So Cloud Build.
Is it cloudbuild.io?
Cloudbuild.co.co.
Cloudbuild.co.
The .net, the .com, the .everything was taken. Even the .dev. Which when I was picking this name, and I wanted to kind of do this, make it formal, because I'm going to be, trying to look for clients and trying to bring in some money through this. So I threw up an LLC for it to try to make sure it's legit. But when I came up with a name, I didn't realize that there's actually a service called Cloud Build. Do you know of the Cloud Build service?
It for some reason sounds familiar. What is that?
And for some reason, the month when I was, coming up with the name and trying to think about, okay, what type of name of the service or the company or the website that I want to use, and Cloud Build was kind of similar to Site Build. Remember, I came up with Site Build a while ago, and like, building websites or having
is that sitebuild.io?
Yes, which I let go of that because the
I was gonna say it feels like it's gone now.
The IO domains are a little bit pricey to renew, and it's like, I don't want to keep paying for this. I'm not really using it that much, and in the end, also, I don't want to build websites. That's not what I really want to do. So I let go of that, but I still like the build name, and so I think, well, what do I want to build? I want to build, instead of building sites, I want to build clouds. Right? So Cloud Build. I thought that's kind of the most approach, and I could even do Cloud Build Solutions, make it sound a little more official. To the type of services I want to provide. But there is a service, and I think the reason why all the domains were taken that exists by Google, called Cloud Build.
Oh, okay.
So Google's
Yeah.
Cloud. So what do you think Cloud Build does? The service for that exists on the Google Cloud.
I feel like it's a fully managed continuous integration delivery and deployment platform that lets
There
you
it
run
is.
fast, consistent, reliable, automated builds.
Which is interesting because I have used the Google Cloud in the past, and that was interesting. Was one of the one services I did use. I did find that was slow. It did work, but I did use it for just building for, if I wanted to set up some type of CI/CD kind of pipeline for doing some type of build process, maybe, connecting with a Git repo. It actually worked really, really nice. And I used it for probably a year or two, and I don't use it anymore. And I actually haven't used it in a long time. And when I was coming up with the name, I wasn't even thinking about that, but maybe in the back of my head, it kind of was. But then, and I was really, okay, am I going to kind of run into issues
No,
with like,
you are ahead of the curve because what you have staked the claim to Cloud Build
Mhm.
for when Google
Exactly.
will obviously kill this product.
Exactly. That's what I thought about too. Because if I'm going to try to take a name of a service from a cloud provider,
Yeah, take it
and
from Google. This little,
and
little,
if I'm worried about infringing on any type of copyright issues like that, I have to worry about Google because they're just going to throw away the service anyway.
They're going to shut it down. They're
They're going to shut it down.
That's why I just registered gmail.biz because I feel like that's.
Oh, I love that. I know. Once they shut down Google domains, I
That was
said
it. You're
said
done.
no
You're
more.
done.
I'm
You're
not.
done.
No,
You know,
because I
what's
had
next?
so many
What's next?
domains. I had like about, for me it was so many. It was like for some people I know they have hundreds of domains. For me I had I think I had like 30 or 40.
Where did you move your domains?
Namecheap.
Namecheap is a good place to move.
Yeah, it's probably the most economical place.
I approve this message. Not a sponsor.
I did start to move to Route 53 because I actually think that's
another
the
good
best.
place to do it. Yeah.
But you're going to pay a few more dollars for it.
You are.
So I'm trying to be cheap with this. Namecheap, and what the name implies, they are probably one of the cheapest domain name hosts. Performance wise and options, I wouldn't say they're probably the best. So I think because I definitely think when I make DNS changes on the Google domain side, everything was super fast. Like that's one thing I loved about Google domains, like the interface, the speed, everything. It was just so clean. It was so nice. I'm also from purchasing domains. It seemed also was pretty economical too. So I really, really liked it. Once they shut that down, sold that to Squarespace, I was like, okay, I'm done with Google. I'm not supporting them anymore. I'm not going away because it did cost me much. Because then to move all of those 30 domains, I was able to, and I sent an email to Namecheap saying, okay, can I get like a bulk discount for these? If I'm going to move like these 30 domains in one shot, can I get a little bit of a discount? So they gave me a little bit of discount, moved on, but it was still a big
because you basically
charge I had to make.
Year.
Yeah,
for another year to register it. So
and some of these domains too, I've recently renewed probably about 3 to 6 months, and so now it's kind of, it did add a year to that, so which is nice. But at the same time, it's just a huge cost. The fact that they closed down the service, sold to Squarespace, and the Squarespace is the last place I want to be, especially for as a domain host. So after that I said no more for Google Cloud, no more for Google Service. I moved everything off, not using Firebase anymore, even though Firebase was once again another product that I thought was really, really good and I would still use. I still recommend today, but who knows with Google, they could decide one day just turn off Firebase and I don't know.
Just get rid of it. So what you said they sold to Squarespace?
Yeah, they sold.
Funny you bring that up because the easiest way to build a site is on squarespace.com.
This is going to be this is going to be the last podcast they would ever want to sponsor because I don't have, because I'm definitely not going to be a huge, well,
I myself am a web developer and I no longer want to do that. So I use Squarespace anyway.
Itching. I have no problems with Squarespace. Just the fact that I just don't want to host my domain names through them because I know what they're going to do too. Is that they're going to up the price and also they're just going to try to integrate it more with their services, and I don't want to deal with that.
Yep. So what else? Anything else going on? I mean, if you're looking, how's the job search going?
Yeah, it's definitely it's been interesting because I think because the market is so saturated now because there's been so many tech layoffs. There's so many people that are looking for like developer tech jobs that it's kind of interesting. I'm trying to walk the line of like thinking about, I think the local searching is a little bit easier, looking either with the Lehigh Valley or around Philadelphia. That's a little bit easier. But remote jobs I find, especially when I'm trying to see how many are being applied, because on LinkedIn, you can track this a little bit more, seeing if you look at a remote job, hundreds or 200 people applied to jobs, and then you just kind of one in that big mix, and that out of those hundreds of people, there's definitely more people more qualified than you are. So it's like, what are the chances that you're going to get a phone call? So it's a little bit more challenging because there's so many people looking right now, especially for remote jobs, I find. So I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, what I'm also trying to balance this out with, when I find the full-time kind of opportunity that's right, that'll, definitely, that's my primary thing that I'm looking at. But, we'll see if we can also pick up some contract projects and some cloud, which have a couple small clients I'm kind of working with now, and seeing if I could also build it up over the next month or two.
Gotcha.
Mm.
I used to know. Well, I don't know if I ever did, because the contracting. Oh, what do I want to say? Like the job posting marketplace thing, that landscape. I unfortunate. Well, not. I guess it's fortunately for me, but I feel like that peaked when I was using them, right? And I was a big fan of Odesk, back in the day. Got acquired by was it E?
And you're talking about finding contract jobs, like, and not just finding full-time jobs, but finding.
Finding contract jobs, but also finding contractors, right? Like, so here's the thing. I've got an idea that, I mean, I could dig into it, but I don't have the time, and I'd rather somebody who already understood a lot of this. So I have an idea of something I would like to do with Stable Diffusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I rudimentarily, I know how Stable Diffusion runs. I have there's a service that lets you kind of spin up a Stable Diffusion in instance that has everything installed, and you can play with it. But Stable Diffusion is definitely one of those things where if you're going to get good results, you're going to tinker with it, right? You're going to work with all the different either configurations or some of the models and to get what you want out of it. And that's not something that I necessarily want to learn, but I would like something that was set up in a very particular way. And I think someone who really knew how to use Stable Diffusion would be able to do that without much issue, or at least to tell me, yeah, this is what we need to do, and now this is how we're going to train it.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you find that person now?
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's like, what is that? Maybe so we will come full circle on this, right? Is that the conversation I should be having on LinkedIn?
So are you looking for somebody who would be proficient in the APIs with working with Stable Diffusion and looking, have the opportunity to work on it as like a contract position? That's what you're trying to, so you can bring them into a project you're thinking about?
I mean, let's face it.
And how to find that person?
It's a great idea. I'm going to give them equity in the future of this business. No.
I'm just thinking, how serious are you about this?
No. Yeah, exactly. I have some, what I think are relatively specific requirements that I would love to have someone tell me. First of all, just come and pay them to tell me if it makes sense or not.
Yeah.
And then pay them to say, then can you set up, I don't know, we're going to run it on AWS. We, set up the infrastructure required and tell me what processes need to be in place to train it. Because what I want to do is I want to train a model on some things and then be able to prompt it in a very specific way to get some very constrained output. And it's like, I want to share that idea with somebody. I want to pay them for their time to tell me whether or not it's possible, to tell me how it's possible, and then to configure a Stable Diffusion installation and explain, well, this is the type, because Stable Diffusion, you're going to need to train on stuff. All right, so this is the type of and I'm doing like a sketch-based thing is what I'm looking for. So this is the type of artwork we're going to ingest into it, for which I am hoping to pay an artist to create, right? And with the understanding that you are creating stuff that is going to be ingested by AI for the purpose of then doing generative, we could call it art, but in my particular use case, it's less of art and more of like, I want to give it this prompt, I want to get out this page. Think of it like coloring pages, right? I want something like that. So where do you find that person?
Well, Tim, I don't know if you're aware of that, and you love Upwork.
I hate Upwork.
But Upwork does now have a consulting feature, which I have not tried it.
How is that different than contracting?
And I have looked at, because over the past couple of weeks, I have been looking back on Upwork just to see what the market looks like and see how it's changed.
Can I for a second say what I hate about Upwork?
No, but one of the new features they keep asking me to set up, which I have not done, is like this consulting feature where you can basically set office hours or times you're available. and then you set a rate for that. And then you could just search for people who offer these kind of open office hours to kind of do what you are talking about, where you just want to get some feedback on an idea, or let's say you're working through a problem and then you want them you just want to have a conversation, have like a consulting time. Yeah. And so you could go to Upwork, you can find a consultant who are offering their time per hour, and you can schedule an appointment, and there you go. They could be your provider.
I wonder if that is Upwork trying to capture part of the market that I think have probably been unsuccessful to capture so far, which is the high-end consultants.
Okay.
Which is the role that I used to be on Odesk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because so often you put a job on Upwork and it's a race to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And like this, just to for a moment say what I really dislike about Elance and Upwork is the fact that, like eBay and every other auction style marketplace, they want to charge you to become more visible for the chance to make the money.
Yep,
that's really what I don't like. It's for the chance.
And you haven't taken a look at it in a while.
How bad is it now?
Oh man, it's real bad, because
it's like you have to buy tokens just to bid on jobs, right?
They will give you either free account. They do. I think it's like 100. It's like a token system. Yeah. So they give you like 100 tokens per month. If you pay for their kind of their premium plan, then you can get an added amount on top of that.
So Odesk did the same thing. Odesk gave you tokens per month. You just couldn't buy more. Because their
you could definitely buy more in Upwork. Yeah.
Right. Their perspective was you should only be bidding on this many things in a month. If you're doing more than that, that's kind of spam-like, but behavior.
Yeah.
If you are an established person who is looking for jobs, this is a reasonable, and I think it may have scaled with the jobs you got. Like if you got, say, 100 tokens and you actually got a job, then that may give you some more tokens to use. And they didn't call them tokens, but it's like how many things you could bid on in a month, but you couldn't buy them.
So what I have found, they have increased the amount of tokens it takes to do a bid on a project. And then, you're going to love the next part. Then once you're starting to put in a proposal, what they're going to say at the bottom of the proposal when you're entering it in, do you want to then put an extra bid on top of that?
What's an extra bid?
So basically an auction, like you're talking about. Like, do you want to actually do, like, let's say 8 or 10 or 20 or whatever, give a number of extra tokens that will then put you higher up in the proposal results. But then and then you're basically auctioning off like the value. And they're front of saying it is sort of like an auction system that you're adding these tokens to. So, and if the person actually clicks on your proposal, then they're going to collect those tokens. If they don't click on the proposal, then you'll get the tokens back.
So how many tokens are you willing to risk to get someone to actually
just to take a look?
This is anyway.
So I know it's kind of icky, and you're right. It is a race to the bottom. And I'm like, because almost like I said, we both have had experience. I think I used Elance in the past, long time ago. You used Upwork. I'm sorry, not
Odesk.
Odesk before it was
well,
purchased.
All Upwork is Odesk and Elance merged together.
Yeah,
but
so we
bad way.
You used a lot more than I did. You built a good business around it back, and it was Elance. I'm sorry, Odesk. I keep getting Elance, Odesk. Like I said, they're all merged together, became Upwork. But yeah, it is just, and nowadays it's if you want to get started on the platform, it is a race to the bottom. Like how cheap can you offer your services to get?
And at the same time, how much are you going to pay us just to be able to maybe get the job? And that's what I never liked. Odesk was really clear. They took a decent chunk of my hourly rate, comparatively speaking, right? Mm-hmm. But it was only my hourly rate. It's like if I made money, they made money. Mm-hmm. That and
you felt like the services they were providing for like managing the payments and everything with the system that they were using was worth it to you. So it wasn't a big deal. Yeah, but adding the extra subscription model on top of that, and then adding more of a system that's going to ask you to pay for a pay to play, system.
And I wonder if this now the Upwork version of it all still has the same protectiveness that Odesk did, where they pretty much guaranteed that I get paid.
Right? I think they do. Yeah.
Okay. So they still at least they still have that. Yeah. Because that to me was the value, is that you can guarantee
Yeah, they still use like
I
an
build
escrow
this
system.
hour.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
what I saw. Which
Okay.
because I was like I said, I was taking a
Well,
look to
but
see if there was something I
escrow for
wanted to.
hourly,
Um,
because escrow for fixed bid, I mean, everybody
yeah,
pretty much like that's part of that
I'm
game.
pretty sure it is. Yeah, it's I don't know if it's a full escrow system for the hourly, but it is pretty much. You know, they keep the system guaranteed it. Yeah.
Right. They basically do a reserve against the payment,
Mhm,
and as soon
yeah.
as they can't get a reserve on it, then they tell you to stop working. Which I found super useful. I mean, people would say, well, then you can't even trust your clients. It's like, no, most of my clients I do trust, but
Mhm.
I don't have to do a dance to establish that trust. We can establish that trust while I make money, instead of establishing that trust before I do the work. It's like, okay, yeah.
Well, for your phone burner company, you still have phone burner?
Mm-hmm.
Because we haven't checked in, so I don't know if
Yeah, no, I still, yeah.
if you've moved someplace else.
Yeah.
Do you just hire? Because I know you mostly just your employees are mostly contractors, right?
Not anymore, no.
Oh, so you switched over to being salary?
Yeah.
Okay. So because I was wondering, do you bring in contract developers like per project, or bring them in, bring
Not
them out,
often,
or
no.
so?
No, most of the team is W2.
Okay.
So.
And then you don't look for, it's kind of like you talk about the whole, I'm not saying you use Stable Diffusion at the phone burner, but like for the type of project, let's say you have some type of service or some type of API that you want to integrate for a product.
If there's something that we need a very, very focused set of expertise on, yes, we have brought in very specific contractors, but it is not like our go-to. Okay. It's not like this is whatever, this is the emphasis of this quarter, this half, or whatever. We need to build this thing. Now, how are we going to put together a team of contractors? No, it's usually we're going to do that in-house. But if there is something that's like, we don't have this expertise in-house at all, we can either learn it, or we could bring somebody in with the expertise on a contractor basis. Yes, we've done that. But those are direct relationships. Generally speaking, it's usually somebody we know, tangentially through the team. And we bring them in. But yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. Like, is that where I go? Should I go to Elance, or what is it? Upwork now? Like, where do I find that person who knows Stable Diffusion?
I'm sure you probably could find on Upwork.
Just I know I could find like 1,000 people who said they could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done that enough to know how that works. I've been part of that group and have, well, that's kind of interesting though. Like, as part of that group, I knew how to differentiate myself.
Mm-hmm. And that is a skill. Yeah.
So I don't know though.
Make yourself stand out.
Yeah. I don't know as a, from the flip side, if I'd be good at identifying those that were high quality candidates. I just wonder how hard that is. I mean, like I said, I had techniques that obviously whatever I did, my rate was not the lowest. And I still had people contacting me. So, but I just don't know if on the flip side I could pull off the same thing. What's the marketplace I use? The marketplace I use. Fiverr. Which, by the way, is not $5 anymore. I'm just gonna inflation's a real thing, folks. Fiverr's not $5 anymore.
Oh, the Fiverr.
It's not bad though. Have you used it?
I've looked at. I've never used. Yes, I have used Fiverr back for some marketing stuff back in the Mini Genie days. I know we used Fiverr. We definitely used Fiverr for some voiceovers, some ads. But yeah, I haven't used it personally myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I use it for illustrating my presentations, things like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's done a decent job. There was something else. Oh yeah, for some craft projects for a community outreach. Used Fiverr to take some very simple. We were making paper bag puppets, and a very simple paper bag puppet drawing, and then add depth and texture, and make it nice artwork, and then we cut them on the laser, and made paper bag puppets. So I've found Fiverr. I wonder, do you think there's Stable Diffusion experts on Fiverr?
I think there might be.
Maybe that's where I should look. No, but honestly, other than Upwork and Fiverr, like I'm at a loss. I guess
Tim, you know what I think you should do?
What should I do?
Yes, you should definitely do some searches on LinkedIn right after you delete the show.
Can't do it when I'm taking a drink, man. right after we delete this show.
Right after you go delete the show, yes. Then go to LinkedIn, do some searches. I guarantee you probably will find somebody talking about how to integrate with Stable Diffusion.
I will say, I've been the eyeballs on Restream. Tell me how many people are watching on the platform formerly known as Twitter. And the entire time, I think it's not been as high as what we got on LinkedIn. I'm going to say that. I don't want to give out numbers because I know you're not a numbers guy.
Well,
You
I
know, you
am.
don't
Well,
you don't want to know.
just
but,
like with exams, I don't want to be stressed. Tim, you're gonna give me the numbers, and I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, we need more viewers, need more people chatting about us.
And next week, maybe we'll stream on Mark's site.
Jeez.
That one's in the can. Look at that.
I know, because I was looking at, I was
that.
just thinking, yeah, we could just get back online here today, because we haven't talked to you in a while.
Should I end the stream or should this is the bone? Those of you who are watching on LinkedIn, all of you, this is what you get by watching the live stream.
And what I was gonna talk to you about, it's like, okay, if we're gonna be starting to do this to Twitch and to LinkedIn, maybe we should put a little bit more of a format around this, trying to make it a little bit more formal, structured.
Ruin everything with this.
No, I'm just saying, well, could we at least have like a topic list or something like that we talk about?
We've done that in the past. I don't know that we've ever gotten to it.
That's true.
We've done it.
I don't know.
All right. Well, goodbye, LinkedIn. I'm going to end the stream, and you will have to join us next week. And if you are watching this, DevFridayShow.com has better audio. So there you go.
And may have all of